The millionaire freezes when he sees his new babysitter is the black beggar woman who loved first. The moment Leah Caldwell stepped through the towering gates of the Johnson estate, the air felt thick, like the calm before a storm. Her worn boots clicked against the polished marble floors, so shiny they reflected the crystal chandeliers hanging from the high ceiling. The scent of fresh roses floated through the massive halls, but it couldn't drown out the tight lump in her throat. Leah's heart hammered fiercely, equal parts dread and hope, as she gripped the nanny's bag tighter. This was so far from the cold nights on the streets she'd known, the biting winds and the sharp looks from strangers. Now, here she was, hired to care for little Michael, the youngest Johnson heir, sheltered in a world of money and power. But none of that mattered yet. What shook her wasn't the grandeur. It was knowing she was about to return to a past she'd buried deep. Ryan Johnson. The name echoed in her mind, a ghost she never expected to meet again. The man she had loved fiercely once, before life tore them apart, now lived just halls away. She had been the black beggar woman to his golden world. Now she wondered, would he recognize the woman she'd become, or would she remain a shadow of forgotten love? The staff moved quietly around her, their eyes flickering with surprise and curiosity. The new nanny didn't look like anyone they'd imagined. Whispers seized the air. "Is that really her?" someone muttered. "The same girl who vanished years ago?" And others exchanged doubtful looks. Leah caught fragments from the streets. What's she doing here? The weight of their judgment threatened to crush her lean frame. As she entered Michael's playroom, her nerves twisted into a knot. The boy looked up, a clean-faced child with curious eyes, reaching out for her without hesitation. Relief washed over Leah. This was why she fought to get here, to give a child care she'd never had. Then, just as she steadied herself, a tall figure appeared in the doorway. Ryan Johnson. His breath hitched, his eyes widened, freezing midway between disbelief and something raw. Time seemed to splinter. His sharp jaw tensed, and for a moment, he stared hard at the nanny's worn coat, the faint scar above her eyebrow, the same one he'd traced with his fingers in some faraway memory. The grand silence broke with a stammered, "Leah?" Her heart slammed against its cage. She swallowed hard, her voice a whisper. "Ryan." Around them, servants paused, their faces blank but searching, shock and doubt swirling like a dark cloud. Ryan's father, Augustus Johnson, appeared behind him, sneering, cold and calculating, eyes sharp like knives. A shadow passed over his face, a silent warning that Leah's past was not going unnoticed. Leah's hands trembled as she gripped Michael's tiny fingers. Knowing this unexpected reunion was only the first crack in the wall she built around her life. Behind the luxury, deep secrets stirred. Secrets Augustus would unleash to break her, to poison Michael's future. Her heart raced. Could she stand strong? Could she protect little Michael and her own child, Gabriel, hidden away from prying eyes? Could she face Ryan again, knowing the love that once soared between them might shatter everything? Could she survive this storm at the gates of fortune, when her past clawed its way into the present, threatening everything she'd fought to build? The answer lay just beyond that door. But the question hung heavy. How far would she be forced to go to save the fragile life she cradled in her arms? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. A lot of subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. just take a quick look at that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And while you're here, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Leah's heart raced. The world around her faded as she stood frozen at the sight of Ryan. His blue eyes, filled with confusion and a hint of disbelief, bore into her. All those memories came rushing back. The laughter, the stolen moments under the stars. The way he whispered her name, like it was a secret treasure. But behind that warmth lay the heavy weight of her past. "Hello, Ryan," she managed, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Michael squeezed her hand, grounding her in the present, but the storm inside her raged. "Leah, what are you doing here?" His voice trembled with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. Was it anger, pain, or perhaps fear? Before she could answer, Augustus Johnson stepped forward, his imposing figure casting a shadow over her fragile peace. "I thought we cleared the streets of filthy beggars," he sneered, eyes darting from Leah to his son. "This is hardly the kind of company we want around our son." A cold rush shot through Leah, but the sting of Augustus's words faded when she noticed a flicker of anger in Ryan's features. "Stop it!" His voice was steady, but a storm brewed in his eyes. "She's here to look after Michael. That's all that matters." Leah didn't know whether to feel relief or fear. No one had defended her in years. The air between them crackled with tension. And then it happened. A sudden crash echoed from the hallway, followed by frantic footsteps. The staff erupted into chaos, faces morphing from shock to sheer panic. "What's going on?" Ryan shouted, his attention darting toward the commotion just outside the playroom. Leah's chest tightened. Fear crept in, twisting her gut. Before anyone could respond, a figure burst through the doorway, breathless and wild-eyed. It was one of the household staff, Tina, her hands trembling. "Mr. Johnson, you need to see this, now!" Ryan's gaze switched from Tina to Leah, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. Leah's heart sank as she sensed a shift, a storm that had nothing to do with the confrontation between them. She held Michael tighter, feeling the boy's small fingers trembling, mirroring her own fear. "What's happening?" she asked, voice shaking. Ryan took a step towards Tina, urgency flooding his expression. "What's wrong?" "It's Gabriel," Tina gasped. "He's..." Time stopped. The name hit Leah like a bullet. Gabriel, her son. She hadn't spoken his name out loud in so long, kept him hidden from the world to protect him. But how did they know? "What do you mean? What happened to him?" Panic clawed at her chest. "Someone found him near the gates. A man said he was looking for you," Tina continued, her voice trembling. The room spun. Leah's thoughts raced a mile a minute. The shadows of her past shadowed over her present, threatening to suffocate her. Who had let that secret slip? Who had put Gabriel in danger? The walls of the luxurious estate felt as if they were closing in on her. Ryan turned to her, the confusion intensifying. "Leah, is he okay?" Tears threatened to spill down her cheeks, but she fought them back. She had to be strong. I don't know. The words felt like lead in her mouth as fear washed over her. Her boy, her sweet Gabriel, the boy she'd protected from the world, was now caught in its cruel grasp. Suddenly, everything in that moment shifted. The glimmering chandeliers, the polished floors, the whispers of the staff, all vanished under the weight of impending doom. The love that once filled her heart shattered into pieces, replaced by the desperate need to save her child. In that instant, she realized the truth. Her past was no longer buried. It had clawed its way back, ready to unleash chaos on everything she held dear. "Get him back to me," she cried out to the universe, knowing that the battle was just beginning. Would she have the strength to fight against the tide of secrets threatening to consume her once more? And as Ryan's face blurred, filled with a mix of anger and worry, Leah understood this was only the beginning of a much darker journey. She needed to protect Michael, protect Gabriel, and unravel the lies that entwined their lives. But as the echo of Gabriel's name hung in the air, a chilling thought crept in. What if this man, the one searching for her son, knew more than he let on? What if he held the key to a past she thought she could control, but had already slipped through her fingers? The moment hung heavy in the room. The air was thick with fear and panic, swirling around like a storm ready to break. Leah felt it, tightening around her like a noose. "What do you mean? What happened?" Panic spiked in her chest. The world was tilting, and she fought to stay grounded. Ryan's hand shot out, a protective gesture toward her, but the chaos outside the playroom enveloped them. His face was a mix of confusion and determination, and she could see the muscles in his jaw clenching tight. "We need to go," he said, urgency dripping from his tone. But before they could move, Augustus's voice cut through the pandemonium like a knife. "You have nothing to worry about," he coldly sneered, an unsettling calm washing over him. "As long as you keep your filth hidden, dear Leah. Isn't that right?" Leah's eyes shot back to Augustus, her heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" She felt the walls closing in, and suddenly she didn't just have to defend her past. She had to protect her son, too. "Your son?" Augustus laughed, a cold, cruel sound that made her skin crawl. "My dear, you don't even know what you're hiding from, do you?" Before she could retort, Ryan had already stepped forward. "Enough! You're scaring her." "Scaring her?" Augustus leaned forward, an unsettling glint in his eyes. "This is far bigger than fear. There are truths here that run deeper than you realize." "All this time," he gestured wildly, "you thought you were hiding Gabriel, your little secret. But that secret was waiting for the right moment." He paused, weighing his words deliberately. "He's not just another boy, Leah. He's a pawn in a game far beyond your understanding." The implications of Augustus's words felt like a punch to her gut. "What are you saying?" She struggled to keep her voice steady, but it was trembling. Suddenly, the chaos at the door surged forward, and with it came another figure. A man, clad in dark clothing, breathless and wild. His eyes were fierce, and as he stepped into the room, an unsettling silence took hold of everyone except for the distant clamor outside. "Mr. Johnson," the man's voice was urgent. "It's happening. They're coming for them." "Who's coming?" Ryan felt the tension ripple through him. His protective instinct kicked in, but fear etched deeper lines into his face. The man shifted, glancing at Leah with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "Your son's father. He didn't just vanish. He's been looking for you, for Gabriel." The room felt like it was spinning. Leah's breath hitched. She had never spoken the name, never let it pass her lips to others. What do you mean? Ryan turned to her, confusion dancing in his eyes. Leah, what's happening? Who is he? Before she could answer, Michael took a step back, his small body trembling. Mommy, I'm scared, he whispered. The gravity of that sentence pulled the ground from beneath her. It's okay, baby, she said, voice shaking. Everything's going to be okay. But inside, panic erupted. She had to shield him from this chaos. How could she do that if the truth of Gabriel's father was suddenly laid bare, threatening everything? Then it hit her like a wave. Gabriel's father, he could be anywhere. And if he was coming for them, it meant she had unknowingly put them all in danger. Had he been watching? Did he know where they were? I need to get my son, she said, a fierce determination lighting her eyes. Now. But as she stepped forward, ready to break through the hidden walls of her past, Ryan put a hand on her shoulder. Leah, wait. There's more you need to understand. More? Her heart raced. What could possibly be more? Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper, filled with raw weight. What if I told you? Gabriel's father is someone you know, someone you had never expected. The revelation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Leah's world splintered into chaos. Who? How could the pieces fit? Everything she'd fought to build, to keep safe, was teetering on the edge of collapse. As the shadows began to thicken and the looming truth wove a tangled web around them, Leah looked into Ryan's eyes, desperate for answers, but finding only an uncertainty she couldn't bear. The man she loved, the boy she bore, were they all tied in ways she'd never imagined? And just as the storm felt inevitable, she heard the approaching footsteps, punctuated by shouts, promises of chaos behind them. Would she be ready for the storm that awaited? Would the truth save them, or destroy everything she held dear? The moment hung heavy in the room. Fear churned under the surface, making the air thick and cloying. Leah felt time slowing down, every heartbeat echoing in her ears. What do you mean? The shake in her voice betrayed the storm that raged within her. Ryan's grip tightened on her shoulder, his eyes locked on hers. Leah, we need to know who he is. But before she could respond, the man in dark clothing stepped closer, urgency radiating from him. We don't have much time. He's close. Who? Ryan demanded, his voice rising, demanding answers as panic began to spread like wildfire around them. Then a loud crash reverberated from outside the room, making everyone jump. The door swung open violently, and a group of men poured in, faces unreadable, purpose sharp. They were dressed in black suits, eyes scanning the room like wolves on the prowl. Mr. Johnson, we need to secure the perimeter, one shouted, eyes darting from Ryan to Augustus. Leave her out of this, Ryan barked, stepping protectively in front of Leah and Michael. What do you want with Leah? The leader of the group, a tall man with steely gray eyes, pointed at Leah. You're coming with us. Why? She asked, her voice trembling, but she stood firm. Because your son isn't safe, he replied, and just like that, the room fell silent. She felt the world pivot, and all eyes turned to her, questioning, accusing, terrified. What do you know about my son? Leah managed to choke out, reality crashing down around her like waves in a storm. The man hesitated, then pulled something from his pocket. A crumpled photo. He held it up. This was taken outside the gates just before we found him. Someone's been watching you, and they've been watching him. Leah's breath caught. The face staring back at her from the photo wasn't Gabriel. But the man with dark, piercing eyes was someone she'd never expected to see again. Him, she gasped, her heart pounding. No, it can't be. Ryan moved closer, scanning the image over her shoulder. Who is this? Who is he? Tears blurring her vision, Leah backed away. It's Michael's father. The stunned silence that followed her words felt like a punch to the gut. Ryan's eyes widened, shock washing over his features, as everything shifted like sand beneath them. Leah, you never told me you had... His voice was low, filled with a mix of disbelief and something more profound. Betrayal? There wasn't time, she whispered, her chest tightening. The tall man spoke again, his voice cutting through the tension. He's been searching for you because he knows where Gabriel is. But he's not just a father. He's part of something much bigger, something dangerous. The room felt colder. The stakes had risen, drawing shadows longer. Fingers trembling, she pulled Michael closer. What does that mean for us? Whoever he is, the man continued, he's coming, and he won't stop until he gets what he wants. Only it's not just about Gabriel, it's about power and revenge. As the realization sank in, the sound of running feet echoed along the marble floors outside. The chaos was no illusion. It was a wave breaking against their walls, threatening to drag them down. Leah blinked back tears, feeling the pull of the past tightening its grip. All her efforts to shield herself and Michael were crumbling. Everything she thought she knew about safety and home shattered. Then, as if summoned by her fears, the figure from the photograph appeared at the doorway. It was him, the man she had tried to forget. Where is he, Leah? He asked, voice low and dangerous, eyes piercing straight through her. A gasp escaped her lips. The air thickened, each breath feeling like fire in her chest. She didn't just have to protect her family. The truth was finally pushing its way into the light, threatening to engulf them all. Who are you? Ryan growled, stepping forward once more. But Leah could only stare, frozen, panic rising in her throat. Would she unravel everything to save what little she had left? Would the past consume her, along with the love she thought she'd buried forever? As the echo of footsteps swelled, a darker truth loomed ahead. Could their fragile bond withstand the chaos that followed? Would they be ready for what was coming? She had no answers, only fear and the dawning realization that the storm had just begun. The moment felt electric. The imposing man who had just entered froze at the doorway, a shadow falling over the room. Ryan stood with fists clenched, his protective instinct flaring. Leah felt her heart pounding, each thud echoing in her ears. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, voice low and steady, but shaking with tension. "Does it matter?" The man's tone was icy, eyes laced with a darkness that sent a shiver down Leah's spine. "Yes, it does." Ryan moved closer to Leah, glancing over his shoulder. The atmosphere shifted, thickening with terror. The man took a step forward, and Leah's breath caught. "I'm here for the boy." "Which boy?" Ryan shot back, eyes narrowing. Leah's heart slammed in her chest. In that instant, everything felt too surreal. Caught between confusion and fear, she gripped Michael tighter, desperately searching for words. "Your son's father, he wants Gabriel." Leah couldn't breathe. The name hung heavy in the air, a weight she had hoped never to bear again. "What do you mean? How do you know his name?" Her voice quivered, trembling in tandem with her inner turmoil. "Because he's been tracking you, Leah. It was only a matter of time." Suddenly, the room felt colder. Shadows creeping closer, wrapping around her like a tightening noose. Memories of a past long buried clawed their way to the surface. Then, just as chaos loomed, the man's phone buzzed violently against his thigh. He glanced down, eyes widening in alarm. "No, this can't be happening. What is it?" Ryan demanded, stepping forward again, like a lion ready to leap. Before the man could speak, a loud explosion rumbled from outside, shaking the very foundations of the estate. Glass shattered, cascading down like raindrops, panic erupting around them. "Get down!" Ryan yelled, instinctively pushing Leah and Michael to the floor, just as more debris fell from above. Tension crackled in an overwhelming surge. The terrified shouts of the staff echoed through the halls, blending into a cacophony of chaos. But Leah was lost in a different storm, one ripping through her insides. "Gabriel!" A raw cry escaped her. "Where's Gabriel?" The man in front of her shifted, but before he could answer, another group of men burst into the room, marching in like stormtroopers. They wore masks, leaving only their fierce eyes visible. "Get them out! Get them all out now!" one of the masked men shouted, grabbing the first man by the collar and dragging him toward the door. "Wait!" Ryan shouted, trying to assess the situation. "You can't take him." But the masked men were resolute, their focus on the man as though he was the prize they needed. "We're not here for you, Johnson. It's about the boy." Chaos reigned as the walls of the playroom trembled. And then it happened. One of the masked figures unmasked himself, revealing a face Leah knew all too well. Her breath caught. "No," she gasped, the reality crashing down like heavy waves. "Andrew? It can't be." The man who had hunted her, the man she once called love, now appeared as a threat. "Leah, I had to," he said, voice low and urgent. "They're coming for you and Gabriel." Shock pierced through her. Memories twisted, each one sharper than the last, as she wrestled with the truth. He was the father. He had kept this hidden all along. "You knew," she whispered. "All this time, you knew." With the explosion fading into shouts outside, fear filled the room's corners. The reality of betrayal hung thick, suffocating them all. Every bond felt strained as tension dripped from the walls. Time froze, uncertainty flooding the air. Michael trembled beside her, clinging to her like a lifeline. Leah's heart raced. Would Andrew protect them, or was he plotting his own way through the chaos? "Leah, we don't have much time." Andrew's voice was desperate, but the ache of memories strangled her resolve. Life had twisted in ways she'd never imagined, when suddenly a shrill siren broke through the tumult, the kind that signaled danger, a warning. In that moment, everything shifted again. Would they rise together against the tempest, or fall victim to the secrets that threatened to drown them all? The question lingered, heavy as a storm cloud, as danger loomed larger than ever before. The moment felt electric. The imposing man who had just entered froze at the doorway, casting a long shadow over the chaos. Ryan stood with clenched fists, his protective instinct surging. Leah felt her heart pounding, each thud echoing in her ears. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, voice low and steady, yet tremulous with tension. "Does it matter?" The man's tone was icy, eyes laced with a darkness that sent shivers down Leah's spine. "Yes, it does." Ryan took another step forward, closing ranks around Leah and Michael. The man advanced, a confident stride. "I'm here for the—" "Which boy?" Ryan shot back, eyes narrowing, muscles tense. Leah's heart slammed in her chest. In that instant, everything felt surreal. Caught between confusion and fear, she held Michael closer, desperately searching for a way to protect him. "Your son's father, he wants Gabriel." Leah couldn't breathe. The name hung heavy, a weight she had hoped to never bear again. "What do you mean? How do you know his name?" The tremor in her voice betrayed the storm inside. "Because he's been tracking you, Leah, and it was only a matter of time." Cold fear wrapped around her heart, memories of her past flashing like lightning. She couldn't let it take her again. But then the man's phone buzzed angrily against his thigh. His face paled. He glanced down, eyes widening in alarm. "No, this can't be happening." "What is it?" Ryan demanded, stepping closer, fierce in his protectiveness. Before the man could answer, a loud explosion rumbled from outside, shaking the very foundations of the estate. Glass shattered, cascading down like raindrops as panic erupted around them. "Get down!" Ryan yelled, instinctively pushing Leah and Michael to the ground, just as more debris fell from above. Tension crackled, blending with the cries of staff caught in the chaos. Thoughts of Gabriel consumed Leah. "Gabriel, where is he?" The words spilled out, panic clawing at her chest. The man in front of her shifted, but before he could speak, a group of masked men barged into the room, marching like stormtroopers. Their eyes were fierce, cold, and calculating. "Mr. Johnson, we need to secure the perimeter," shouted one, fixated on Ryan. "Leave her out of this," Ryan barked, stepping protectively in front of both Leah and Michael. "What do you want with her?" The leader of the group, a tall man with steely eyes, pointed directly at Leah. "You're coming with us." "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling but standing firm. "Because your son is in immediate danger," he replied, and suddenly the room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, questioning, accusing, terrified. "What do you know about my son?" Leah managed to choke out, adrenaline surging through her as reality settled like lead in her stomach. The man hesitated, then produced a crumpled photo from his pocket. Someone had been watching. He held it up for all to see. "This was taken just before we found him. Someone is hunting you, and they've been watching him." Leah's breath caught as she took in the image. It wasn't Gabriel. It was a face she hadn't expected to ever see again. The man from her past. Him. The word escaped her lips like a ghost. Ryan moved closer, scanning the photograph over her shoulder. "Who is this? Who is he?" Tears blurred her vision as she backed away. It's Michael's father." A stunned silence enveloped the room. Ryan's eyes widened, disbelief washing over him like cold water. "Leah, you never told me you had." His voice faltered, caught between anger and betrayal. "There wasn't time," she whispered, desperation rising as chaos surrounded them. Then, in an eruption of sound, a figure from the photograph burst into the room. It was him, the man she had tried to forget. The father. "Where is he, Leah?" His voice was low and dangerous, eyes piercing as they locked onto hers. As panic encircled them, a shrill siren blared through the confusion. A raw warning. The man who had hunted her transformed before her eyes. "No," she gasped, feeling reality slip away. But the unthinkable happened. He pointed at Ryan, his voice steady. "I've been waiting for you. Did you think you could keep this from me? He isn't just searching for Gabriel. He's been watching you both your entire lives." Every breath felt heavy with betrayal. Michael trembled next to her, and in that moment she realized she wasn't just caught in a storm. She was at the center of a hurricane of secrets. Andrew's intentions hung like a guillotine, ready to drop. "Leah, we need to move," the man barked, eyes darting wildly. "They're coming." All the threads of her fractured life pulled tighter, and as the door began to splinter, she understood the truth of her existence had been a lie. The past she thought she'd buried was just a breath away, ready to swallow them all whole. But just before the door burst open, a chilling thought smothered her resolve. What if Andrew's true motive was not just to find Gabriel, but to destroy everything she held dear? Even if it meant taking Michael down with them. The air ignited with urgency as the door flung open. Everything they knew threatened to unravel, every relationship tested. And as the world crashed around them, the question remained: could love survive this storm, or would they be lost in the whirlwind of consequences? The moment felt electric. The imposing man who had just entered froze at the doorway, casting a long shadow over the chaos. Ryan stood with clenched fists, his protective instinct surging. Leah felt her heart pounding, each thud echoing in her ears. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, voice low and steady, yet tremulous with tension. "Does it matter?" The man's tone was icy, eyes laced with a darkness that sent shivers down Leah's spine. "Yes, it does." Ryan took another step forward, closing ranks around Leah and Michael. The man advanced, a confident stride. "I'm here for the boy." "Which boy?" Ryan shot back, eyes narrowing, muscles tense. Leah's heart slammed in her chest. In that instant, everything felt surreal. Caught between confusion and fear, she held Michael closer, desperately searching for a way to protect him. "Your son's father. He wants Gabriel." Leah couldn't breathe. The name hung heavy, a weight she had hoped to never bear again. "What do you mean? How do you know his name?" The tremor in her voice betrayed the storm inside. "Because he's been tracking you, Leah. And it was only a matter of time." Cold fear wrapped around her heart, memories of her past flashing like lightning. She couldn't let it take her again. But then the man's phone buzzed angrily against his thigh. His face paled. He glanced down, eyes widening in alarm. "No, this can't be happening." "What is it?" Ryan demanded, stepping closer, fierce in his protectiveness. Before the man could answer, a loud explosion rumbled from outside, shaking the very foundations of the estate. Glass shattered, cascading down like raindrops as panic erupted around them. "Get down!" Ryan yelled, instinctively pushing Leah and Michael to the ground. just as more debris fell from above. Tension crackled, blending with the cries of staff caught in the chaos. Thoughts of Gabriel consumed Leah. "Gabriel, where is he?" The words spilled out, panic clawing at her chest. The man in front of her shifted, but before he could speak, a group of masked men barged into the room, marching like stormtroopers. Their eyes were fierce, cold, and calculating. "Mr. Johnson." "We need to secure the perimeter," shouted one, fixated on Ryan. "Leave her out of this," Ryan barked, stepping protectively in front of both Leah and Michael. "What do you want with her?" The leader of the group, a tall man with steely eyes, pointed directly at Leah. "You're coming with us." "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling, but standing firm. "Because your son is in immediate danger," he replied, and suddenly the room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, questioning, accusing, terrified. "What do you know about my son?" Leah managed to choke out, adrenaline surging through her as reality settled like lead in her stomach. The man hesitated, then produced a crumpled photo from his pocket. Someone had been watching. He held it up for all to see. "This was taken just before we found him. Someone is hunting you, and they've been watching him." Leah's breath caught as she took in the image. It wasn't Gabriel. It was a face she hadn't expected to ever see again. The man from her past. Him. The word escaped her lips like a ghost. Ryan moved closer, scanning the photograph over her shoulder. "Who is this? Who is he?" Tears blurred her vision as she backed away. It's Michael's father." A stunned silence enveloped the room. Ryan's eyes widened, disbelief washing over him like cold water. "Leah, you never told me you had—" His voice faltered, caught between anger and betrayal. "There wasn't time," she whispered, desperation rising as chaos surrounded them. Then, in an eruption of sound, a figure from the photograph burst into the room. It was him, the man she had tried to forget. The father. "Where is he, Leah?" His voice was low and dangerous, eyes piercing as they locked onto hers. As panic encircled them, a shrill siren blared through the confusion, a raw warning. The man who had hunted her transformed before her eyes. "No," she gasped, feeling reality slip away. But the unthinkable happened. He pointed at Ryan, his voice steady. "I've been waiting for you. Did you think you could keep this from me? He isn't just searching for Gabriel. He's been watching you both your entire lives." Every breath felt heavy with betrayal. Michael trembled next to her, and in that moment, she realized she wasn't just caught in a storm. She was at the center of a hurricane of secrets. Andrew's intentions hung like a guillotine, ready to drop. "Leah, we need to move." The man barked, eyes darting wildly. "They're coming." All the threads of her fractured life pulled tighter, and as the door began to splinter, she understood the truth of her existence had been a lie. The past she thought she'd buried was just a breath away, ready to swallow them all whole. But just before the door burst open, a chilling thought smothered her resolve. What if Andrew's true motive was not just to find Gabriel, but to destroy everything she held dear, even if it meant taking Michael down with them? The air ignited with urgency as the door flung open. Suddenly, an earth-shattering bang rocked the estate, the ground seemingly shifting beneath them. A figure, silhouetted against the chaotic background of smoke and flickering lights, stepped through the doorway. The tension in the room shattered like glass. "Stop!" shouted the newcomer, brandishing a weapon. The sound echoed around them, freezing time as every pair of eyes locked onto this new threat. Leah's heart raced. She didn't know if this was a friend or foe. But the man stepped closer, and just as his identity came into focus, her breath caught. It was August, Ryan's estranged brother. "Don't!" he yelled, his voice hoarse. "I know who you really are, Leah. You don't have to play this game anymore. You're not alone." Every soul in the room stood still, a shared shock rippling through them. Ryan's face blanched. "What are you talking about?" August stepped forward, shaking with emotion. "The truth can't stay buried. And now they're looking for you both, Gabriel and Michael." It hit like a freight train. The past, the secrets, the lies, came crashing down. Suddenly, it wasn't just about survival. It was about identity, about legacy. "What do you know, August?" Leah whispered, a burning need for answers on the tip of her tongue. But before he could respond, the masked men surged forward, and chaos erupted once more, with the ground trembling underfoot. An impossible choice lay ahead. Was August their savior, or the harbinger of greater darkness? Could she trust him, or had he come to finalize everything with betrayal? Everything hinged on this one moment. Time stretched, hearts raced, colors blurred into chaos. The storm had just begun, and the chilling mystery proved that not everyone was who they seemed. Would they uncover the truth before it was too late? The tension in the room crackled, and just as Andrew braced himself to speak, the masked men surged forward. The chaotic energy intensified, like a spark igniting a fire. Leah's heart raced as she held Michael tighter to her chest, instinctually shielding him from the shadows that loomed. "Stop!" Ryan shouted, his body positioned protectively in front of them as the masked figures moved. Their eyes glinted with purpose, scanning the room for any sign of weakness. Just as the lead masked man reached for Andrew, a loud crash echoed from outside, metal on metal, a sound that pierced through the haze of confusion. And then, without warning, the door burst open in a blinding flash of light. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the chaos, armed and dangerous. "Step away," a voice rang out, commanding and cool. The figure stepped fully into the room, revealing a striking woman with short-cropped hair and a fierce look in her eyes. "Who the hell are you?" Ryan barked, confusion and frustration mixing in his gaze. The woman had an air of authority that demanded attention, instantly shifting the dynamic. "Your worst nightmare," she replied, her voice steady, but laced with urgency. In an instant, she pulled a device from her pocket. It was sleek, metallic, and lit up with a soft glow, making everyone pause. "I'm here for Gabriel." The room fell silent. Leah's breath hitched. Her heart raced. "What do you mean? How do you know my son's name?" A mix of fear and dread washed over her, mingling with confusion. "Because I've been sent to deliver a message," the woman continued, her gaze unwavering. She looked straight at Andrew, and in an instant, something shifted. "And you need to listen closely, because your lives depend on it." Leah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and just as quickly, the masked men stepped forward. "What's going on?" one shouted, eyes darting between the woman and Andrew. tension hanging in the air. The woman smirked, stepping slightly to the side, allowing Leah and Ryan a better view as she faced Andrew. "It's time for the truth. You were never just a father. You were part of a plan I'm here to dismantle." Every muscle in Leah's body tensed. "What plan?" she whispered. But Andrew's expression turned from anger to shock. In that moment, the glimmers of betrayal formed sharp edges in the room. Without flinching, Andrew shot back. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know more than you realize." The woman's smirk faded. "The truth is, you're right at the center of this darkness. You never left your old life behind, and they've been watching you closely, Leah." A sinking realization hit Leah. "Watching me? Who's watching us? Who wants Gabriel?" Just as she asked, a second explosion reverberated from outside, sending a shudder through the estate. "We don't have much time," the woman shouted, urgency pressing her voice. "You need to choose, protect him or risk everything." Ryan's face contorted with confusion and anger. "What the hell is happening?" he demanded, his protective instinct surging forward again. But it was too late. A sharp scream erupted from beyond the door, sending everyone into a frenzy. The masked men charged forward, tackling the woman to the ground, and chaos erupted anew. Leah felt a jolt of fear course through her veins, every instinct screaming for survival. "Michael!" she yelled, holding him close, but then something caught her eye. Andrew suddenly moved, his entire demeanor shifting. It was as if a mask had slipped, revealing something darker underneath. "Stop!" he yelled, but it lacked conviction. "You don't know what you'll unleash." Leah squinted, trying to piece it all together. The brother, the father, the explosions, a violent dance of truths unfolding, one after the other. Trust shattered like glass, revealing fragments that reflected worry, deceit, and fear. Before she could grasp it all, the woman yelled, "Get out! All of you! Don't wait for me!" But as she spoke, she looked directly at Leah, a knowing glint in her eyes. "You'll have to make a choice soon, and it may be the hardest one yet." And then it clicked. Was Andrew really who he said he was? Were they caught in a game much bigger than their desires? As her mind spun, the darkness of betrayal pulled tighter. In that instant, the room filled with a loud crash. As the masked men and the woman tumbled into chaos, and Michael cried out from her grasp. With every second, everything shattered. "Leah!" Ryan shouted, but the words felt distant, swallowed by fear and confusion. In this storm of truths unraveling, she now faced a haunting choice, a choice that could dismantle everything she loved. The shadows loomed larger, inching closer, threatening to consume them all. And as she braced herself for the turmoil ahead, she knew one thing. This was just the beginning of the end. Leah tried to grasp the chaos swirling around her. The masked men, the explosion, the whirling memories of a past she couldn't escape. Panic engulfed her like smoke, thick and suffocating. "Michael!" she shouted, clutching her son closer. But as the fight between the woman and the masked men escalated, Andrew took a step forward. In his eyes burned a confidence that sent a jolt of fear through Leah. "This doesn't have to end in violence," he said, voice calm but heavy with unspoken weight. "There's a way out of this, if you all just listen." Ryan shook his head, stepping beside Leah, protective and fierce. "Listen to what? More lies? We want the truth." Then it happened. As the woman managed to push one of the masked men away, she grabbed the device again. "I can expose everything, but you need to decide, now. Get ready for the truth," she yelled, her voice rising above the clamor. In that breath, something shifted in the room. The air felt electric. The masked men hesitated, confusion flickering over their faces, leaving a moment of vulnerability. Leah could hardly breathe. "What truth?" she whispered, her heart racing. But before the woman could respond, there was another bang, a sound like a cannon firing. The entire wall exploded in a shower of debris and dust, crashing down around them like thunder. Screams erupted, chaos spiraled, and in the haze of confusion, something caught Leah's eye. A figure moved, darting through the cloud of dust. When the smoke cleared, the crowd gasped in unison. There stood a girl, maybe 15, clad in a tattered dress, hair wild and tangled. She was holding a gun. "Mom!" she cried, eyes wide, voice trembling. Leah's heart sank. Celeste? She hadn't seen her daughter in years. How could she be here? Celeste's presence struck like lightning. "I came to save you. I knew you'd need me." The girl's resolve wavered, her finger resting on the trigger as she scanned the room. Fear and determination intertwined in her gaze. "Leah," Ryan murmured, confusion sweeping over his features. "You have a daughter?" The truth weighed heavy, complete shock ripping through her insides. I thought I lost her," she stammered, shock erasing words. She hadn't been ready to face the girl, hadn't even known she might be alive. When the masked men saw Celeste, their eyes flickered with recognition, whispering among themselves. "It can't be her," one muttered. "She's supposed to be gone." The woman stepped forward, urgency amplifying her voice. "Celeste, you shouldn't be here. They're hunting you." Then it hit like a tidal wave, crashing over them all. The entire situation was a trap, a game rigged from the start. The girl was not just an innocent. Caught in the crossfire, she held a key to secrets that could unravel them all. The tension in the room snapped, the masked men moving as one. "Grab her!" one shouted, lunging toward Celeste. "Get back!" Leah yelled, adrenaline surging. She felt her heart pounding. Time slowed. Would she risk her own life to protect her daughter? "Go, Celeste! Run!" But the girl stood her ground, raising the gun with trembling hands, a fierce light in her eyes. "I won't back down." Reality shattered as both the woman and Andrew backed away, their motives suddenly unclear. They weren't merely aiming for Gabriel anymore. They craved something deeper, darker. Leah's body tensed, every instinct screaming to protect her children. "What's the truth then? What have you both kept from me?" "More than you realize, Leah," Andrew said, and there was something colder in his tone. In a heartbeat, she grasped the gravity of their world. Their lives entangled in ways she could hardly fathom. And then, just before she could piece it together, chaos broke loose. Shouts erupted. Celeste shouted something. It was lost in the confusion. The masked men surged forward. But in that explosive moment, everything shifted. The gun easily slipped from Celeste's trembling grasp, clattering against the ground. She stumbled back, lost in the storm around them. Time slowed. Every heartbeat pounded in Leah's ears. And with each second, the truth pressed closer, shoving its way into the light. The ramifications of all they'd built, or destroyed, felt ready to snap. "Who are you really?" Leah whispered, feeling the shadows close in around her. "Where do loyalties lie? Would courage win? Or would it all come crashing down?" In one terrible moment, she knew answers awaited that might destroy them all. Chaos erupted in the room. Celeste's gun clattered to the floor as masked figures lunged toward her. Time slowed to a crawl. "No!" Leah screamed, adrenaline flooding her veins as she lunged forward, ready to shield her daughter. "Get back!" Ryan shouted, placing himself between Celeste and the masked men. His fierce gaze met Leah's, igniting a spark of hope amid the turmoil. "Trust me, Leah. We'll get through this." Suddenly, Andrew stepped forward, raising his hands, shaking his head. "Wait, listen to me." "You had your chance," the woman cried, grabbing Andrew's arm. "You let this happen. We don't have time for this." A loud crash shook the room. A piece of the ceiling gave way, sending dust and debris floating down around them. The masked men shifted, faltering for just a moment. Leah saw that glimmer of uncertainty in their eyes. "Now!" she yelled, adrenaline thrumming in her blood. Ryan grabbed Celeste's hand and pulled her away from danger. "Go!" he shouted. "Escape through the back. Leah, stay close to me." As they sprinted through the chaos, the woman shouted directions to the group. "We have to split up. I'll hold them here. You need to get to safety." "No," Leah protested, panic squeezing her heart. "We can't leave you." "Just go," the woman yelled, her voice steady, grounding Leah amidst the chaos. The masked men advanced, but before they could reach her, the woman activated her device. A pulse of blinding light spread through the room, causing the masked men to stagger back, momentarily blinded. "Run!" Andrew yelled, knowing the window would close quickly. They bolted down a dimly lit hallway, Ryan leading the charge. Leah's heart raced as they burst into the night outside. The air was sharp and cool, but it was freedom. Feeling a spark of hope igniting, she glanced back. The woman was fighting fiercely, holding her ground against the masked men. Pain surged through Leah. "She won't make it." "Keep moving," Ryan said, pulling her closer as the crack of gunfire erupted behind them, mingling with the sounds of shouts and chaos. They raced through the estate grounds, darting around towering bushes and hedges, the shadows stretching behind them. "Where's Gabriel?" Celeste gasped, breathless. "He's safe for now," Leah said, desperation burning in her chest. "We'll find him. We will." Ryan led them toward a gate far from the main entrance. "This way," he urged. "We can get to the woods. There's a safe spot." Leah's heart raced as she followed, knowing their paths were entwined but filled with uncertainty. Could they truly outsmart the dangers that lurked behind them? Suddenly, Celeste paused, looking back with wide eyes. What if they hurt her? What if they— "Stop!" Leah's voice was sharp. "We can't dwell on that now. We have to survive." As they cleared the gate and plunged into the trees, the air thick with the smell of pine, Ryan turned to them, urgency in his gaze. "We'll find refuge, together." In the solitude of the woods, their escape felt surreal. Each step brought relief, but the past loomed like an unstoppable tide. The truth they faced was deeper than betrayal. It could sink their newfound family. But just as hope flickered faintly in their hearts, they heard voices approaching. The treetops rustled above them, shadows flitting in the night. "Leah," Ryan whispered, his grip tightening around her. They crouched low, hearts pounding. "What do we do?" Celeste breathed, eyes darting in fear. Leah turned to look at her daughter, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "We fight. Together." Suddenly, shouts echoed through the darkness. Figures emerged from the shadows, followed closely by the masked men. Their hearts raced as they recognized the voices of those chasing them. Old enemies. "Now let's see what you really wanted, Leah." Andrew's voice cut through the air, icy and filled with menace. In this moment of impending confrontation, the truth hung in the air like a storm cloud. Love and fear collided, leaving them vulnerable with nowhere left to hide. But would they fight for their future, or be swallowed whole by their pasts? As the darkness closed in, uncertainty gnawed at them. They were on the brink of a choice that could alter everything. And in the distance, the flicker of hope remained. The promise of truth waiting to be found. Ultimate Truth. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this stunning finale. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this electrifying conclusion. Your support is crucial. Be part of this journey.